Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Mia Dev Radio. With us today is a very special guest, Julien Bertin. Julien leads the Azure Business Group in Middle East and Africa. And Julien, we want to know more about you. Tell us more about you.
Thank you, Atim. I'm very excited. Thank you for hosting me on this show, a very famous show in the region, so thank you. So you want to know more about me, right? So I've been in the tech sector for 20 years now, tech industry for 20 years, but actually I started much earlier because my first computer, for those who know, was an Amiga 500, if you remember. Amiga 500, Commodore 64 with a little, tape and cassette.
Yes.
So my first development actually, or coding that I did was when I was 12, 13 years old, so people will be able to relate with the age.
Amazing.
on those 5.4 inches floppies, and then obviously on the 3.5 inches, and then on the cassette itself. But I'm a geek. I love technology. I've always been in tech, 22 years in the sector, and I've been 10 years in Dubai as well.
That's great.
So very fond of the country. My daughter's born here, so she's like
amazing,
like a local.
That's great. That's great. So you said you have such an immense experience, and you have been in the tech for more than 2 decades now. How do you think that events are coming up? When you see developer events going around you, what is the first thing which comes into your mind?
Wow, that's an excellent question. But first of all, excitement, because I tell you today, more than ever before, I think actually, developers do have a lot of interactions with the business, and actually, more than ever, technology is actually driving the business demand.
Yes.
And we see more and more companies that are platform companies that are actually changing industries. And I will take example of Uber, who has disrupted the transportation industry. I take Airbnb, who has disturbed the hotel vacation type industry. And that all came from people who did not necessarily have a business background, but had a developer background.
I agree.
Correct?
Yes, 100%.
And by the way, the last time I software developed was on COBOL, on mainframe. So, and Python as well. But what I'm trying to say is that more and more now, whenever I hear about developer event, I'm very excited because that's where you can enable people to connect and share ideas.
Yes.
And share learnings, and amplify, things that are working well, and how then you can leverage. And that's how we also saw a lot of tech being adopted through those events. So whenever I hear about those events, very excited. Obviously, very excited to be with Microsoft, who is a company that's been catered a lot for the developers with all the tools that we have, like Visual Studio, obviously GitHub, and all the investments that we are doing around making sure that those technologies actually cater for the needs of developers more and more. So yeah, excitement, also, looking at ID generation and conversation, and also disruption. When I think about those events, I'm always excited because I'm always, hopeful that a disruption will come out of it, one way or the other.
Agree.
And particularly now in the Middle East, where we see more and more developers actually coming into the region. The region is catering more and more for startups. We see disruptive startups coming out here in the region. So yeah, that's pretty much what I think about when I see a meetup or an event.
That's great. So what I'll do next time is, whenever we have any event around us, I'll ping you the first.
Count me in. Yes, please. That would be great.
Another thing which I saw from a conversation in the past is you have interacted with a lot of MVPs and developer communities, right?
Right.
I wanted to know your perspective of what they are doing right now, what you feel can be improved or a feedback can be provided, and how these communities can actually enhance more or bring more to the business in that case, or in a way it can help them to improve more of what they are currently contributing to the community.
Wow, that's a very broad question.
Yes.
Very bold question. I'll give you a bold answer, but you're very generous. I'm actually, I will say this genuinely in front of everyone in the audience as well, and to you, I don't think I'm meeting enough developers and enough MVPs, but I do meet them. The first thing I will say is MVPs and developers should be vocal and demanding towards us.
Yes.
Because as I said, in the preceding questions, I believe they are the engine. They are they represent the future. They represent the disruption.
Agree.
And I really believe that the first thing they owe to do, and we owe it to them, is to listen to the feedback. They should be demanding airtime with people like you, with people like Tashwa, with people like myself, and any senior leader within Microsoft, and make sure that they can have airtime with us to provide us with how we can improve the relationship, the working relationship with them. They should not, I consider them to be an extension of the Microsoft ecosystem.
Agree.
So we are all part of one family, and they are the representative of that.
Yes.
And some MVP have so much knowledge. You know, the first time I had the chance to talk to them when I joined Microsoft, I was amazed by the wealth of, you know, experience, the wealth of I mean, some people have profiles, they've invented, some of our MVPs have invented things. They're like inventors. Yes. The diversity of industry they work into, the diversity of achievements that they have is so amazing that they should not hesitate to really come with demands to make sure that they can have airtime with us. That's really the first thing. The second thing I believe, and you and I have discussed it, so I'm going to disclose some internal discussions here, but it's good things. I believe that we should set up a better framework of communication with the MVPs, and make sure that we can have a platform where we can allow them and us to kind of get the feedback to you, but also to more senior people, because they are such an important part of interacting with our customers. At the end of the day, technology adoption happens when, you know, customers feel comfortable with the technology that we have. And MVP plays such a big role within their ecosystem, within their communities, right?
Yes.
And in this diverse region that Middle East and Africa is, with 76 plus countries and all those different culture and languages, it is even more important.
Correct.
So one of the things I really want us to work on is to see how we can improve that communication channel, two-way communication channel, right?
Yes.
And equip the MVPs with the right information from, you know, product launches that we did at Ignite, but as well as, you know, product roadmap information. I think they should have a glimpse under NDA as to what we are working on, what are the trends that we see in the market. I remember some conversation I had with some MVPs who were telling me that it's so valuable for them to know the trends that we see as Microsoft, because we have a larger lens, you know, naturally, because of the position in the region that we have. We sometimes have a larger lens, and we can sometimes help them kind of understand the trends that they are seeing that they might not be capable of putting into perspective.
Correct.
So really, you know, making sure that we kind of tighten this operational framework, and together we can build this two-way communication and make sure that they get access to that information and to the people. I think it's very important, and also make sure that the MVPs knows the people who interact within their geographies from Microsoft, because I think sometimes they have contact with some of us, but not necessarily the people in the field. You know, I'm thinking about countries like Kenya or Nigeria or, you know, the Middle East or Oman. You know, those people don't necessarily know the people that works there who represent Microsoft, and they are part of this ecosystem. So
yes, and actually I truly agree, and I wanted to highlight 2 points which Julien mentioned. One of them is the feedback. This feedback, so I have been working in this community for almost a decade now.
Wow.
And one thing which improves a product or a technology is the feedback. And that is I want to stress on that point what Julien mentioned, is feedback is very important over here, and the communication framework, which is, and you are very correct that regions like Oman, and we have seen that trend out here where they want to do so many things. I know a country like Jordan, they have so many developers and they want to come up, and we are creating mediums. So guys, this is one of the medium where we are trying to reach you, and you know, this is where we will come up to. So yeah, this is very exciting. You mentioned Ignite in one of your events, right? And this was one of the biggest technology events which happened in the second week of October. I wanted to know your thoughts and, you know, top of your mind, technologies which you feel you're very excited about.
Oh my God, thank you for asking the question. Look, Ignite, first of all, was fantastic. It was my first Ignite that I attended physically, because obviously because of the pandemic, I didn't have the opportunity to travel. So it was such a great thing for me to go to Seattle for the first time, and just loved it. I mean, the energy, the passion, And the announcements are great. So
Yes.
answering your question actually about the announcements, let me start with the one that excites me personally, and I will share 3 of them with you.
Cool.
The first one is, for those who have seen, we've launched the Intelligent Data Platform for Microsoft. And I'm very excited about that because I believe, as much as we discussed how important developers are, I also believe that what's really important is that now there is a realization that data is really something that before we used to treat it as an outcome of a business process that was supported by an application.
Correct.
I think today data is really becoming the core of the business, and people start to understand that. So there is more and more realization that having data, generated by application, generated by the business that we are doing, is not necessarily the only the way we should look at it. We should look at it as an asset that needs to grow, that has its own life cycle, that has its own value. And the fact that we launched the integrated data platform today, we are the technology player with an end-to-end portfolio that can cater from data, governance, where is the data, who is accessing my data, down to the data warehouse and to all the advanced services that can go around it, from predictive machine learning, cognitive searches, and all the AI services that we can do around it. And that's something that we've put together into the intelligent data platform. So I'm very, very excited about it. I think the response that we saw also from some of the people I had the chance to accompany in Seattle for Ignite was also extremely encouraging.
Nice.
And we have a lot of conversation around that. So I encourage all of you actually to really look at, if it's not something you already do, because some of you are already doing it, but look at data, look at how you can integrate data framework within your thinking, particularly when you're designing new features for an application or when you want to disrupt. Really start with the data, look at how you're incorporating that into workflow within your application or exactly.
Correct.
The second one is the OpenAI Azure service that we've announced with Delhi. That is also very exciting. We had a couple. GPT-3 was announced, right? If you guys remember. Now we have Delhi as well. Very exciting. Obviously, I'm excited because now I can play with the speech to pictures and do some creative work. No, but other than that, I think what I'm really fond of is that we really try. As Microsoft, we want to empower every organization and every individual to achieve more.
Yes.
And I love this mission because we translate it into real concrete things for everyone. And one of the things is that giving our customers or developers, all of you actually, access to technologies such as DALL-E 2 or GPT-3, which are technologies that not so long ago were really reserved to, certain people with access to that technology, access to the compute platform or to the storage that could, manage such tech.
Yes.
Today it's available to everyone. I mean, you come on Azure, OpenAI is there, you have access to those frameworks, you can leverage them, you can enrich them. You don't necessarily need to just leverage them as they are, but you can enrich them with your own data, you can enrich them with your own models, and then make them work for you as a business without necessarily catering or thinking about the entire underlying, infrastructure. Before, if you wanted to dream about something like this, you would have to think about everything, like the networking, the compute platform, the storage, the security, the access, where the data comes from. Well, not anymore, but it's accessible.
Yes.
So that is something that excites me a lot, and particularly for developers and MVPs, I really encourage all of you, hopefully to go and look at it. I mean, yes, that's something that... and then the last one is Visual Studio for Azure DevBox, right?
Yes, that's...
I hope you guys are all familiar with the DevBox, but now we have Visual Studio available for it, which is great. I love Visual Studio personally. I'm using it for Python development in my spare time, for space applications, and lovely to see that now we have it embedded in the marketplace. Yes. So that's something that if you haven't had a chance, please look at it. And that goes back to, I think, we as Microsoft are a software company first and foremost, and we are a developer company. I mean, if you think about it, Visual Studio,
it's hard.
Exactly. and then you have GitHub now. So if you look, we are really trying to provide the best possible end-to-end framework for developers, right?
Yes.
From Visual Studio to catering for the release of your application through GitHub or through Azure DevOps, and then make sure that you have the best end-to-end framework to do your app software development, manage your APIs, manage the code, manage the releases,
Yes.
And make sure that we enable you to accelerate software development. Copilot, come on,
Correct.
Copilot
It's
in GitHub. I just love it. I mean,
it's over the world.
yes, it is, right? I mean, let's be honest. How much time did we spend as developers, all of us who have done software development, debugging what we were doing?
Correct.
Well, now you don't. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, you will still need to double check, but Copilot will remove the hard debugging task of identifying, looking to. No,
Right.
Copilot will tell you. I also love the secure features that we have in GitHub, for example, where it can scan the code for you and tell you where you
Correct.
have security warnings. I hope you guys are using that. But those and that's really, having Visual Studio now
Yes.
for Azure DevOps is really,
It's
the continuum of
100%,
that.
Correct. And actually, from your point, I remembered one more news which I wanted to add is so Microsoft partnered with Postman to help
Right.
developers test their APIs in a better way in partnership with Postman. So, usually I used to develop something, go
Yes.
to Postman and test it, right?
Yes.
Now there is an integrated service available. So,
There you are.
these are some of the efforts I think so which would help developers and
Yes.
empower them as a mission to do more, right?
Yes.
So it's yeah.
Look, my vision as a developer, right? When I studied in space science, and one of the things I had to do was to develop some big data software for managing weather data and things like that for satellites. And what I found is I spent like 90% of my time was on the code, hard coding, and API. Where do I integrate? Where do I get this? Where do I get that? But when I look at all the tools now, I mean, if I could spend 90% of my time actually thinking about what my end product would look like, instead of spending
Yes.
time in the nitty-gritty details,
Correct.
I would be such a happy developer.
Agree.
And
100%.
you agree, and I think what we as Microsoft are trying to do with those examples, right?
Yes.
Faster API management and integration with Postman, things like Copilot, secure code scan,
Correct.
things like OpenAI access. I think those are really, concrete steps that we're taking to really create a seamless framework for developers, where developers
Yes.
are not really developing themselves anymore. What their job becomes really to think about what do they want to give to their users and how they want to give it.
Yeah.
And then the tech will do the rest for them, which I think this is, I think, where we all want to go. And I love that, because hopefully it will give more spare time to
Yes.
developers and to our customers, and it will, give better outcome for the users, right? Which is
Yes.
what we want at the end of the day.
Yes. So actually, I wanted to conclude our conversation today. So what I take as points from here is, first, wherever there is a dev event, go attend it. The benefit of that is you can go ahead and provide feedbacks. You can learn a lot from that. To be honest, I have been attending events right and left everywhere, just to know, because at every point of time you learn something new, and this helps you to actually grow yourself and grow as a developer. So there is so much out there in the market right now, so much, it's very hard to cope up with that. And with these kind of events, I feel that you kind of focus to specific technologies and go ahead with that. Talking about this, we have a lot of announcements where you could go and join tomorrow, but don't forget to first like this video and subscribe to our channel. So the two exciting events which are coming up, the first one is on the 26th of November, which is the Azure Bootcamp. It is happening in South Africa, Johannesburg, in the Microsoft office. So it's open for all. You can go ahead and join us in this event. And we are doing another event as DevOps Day. So DevOps has been a very integral part to any solution which you're building, right? So we are doing this event in Israel. It's happening on the 14th and 15th of December. So I'll post all this news, what Julien mentioned, the event links in the show description. So don't forget, you can go ahead and view these links. Last, be a part of the communities wherever you are. We have communities across Middle East and Africa, everywhere. If you don't find a community near you, contact us. We'll go ahead and help you out in that. And as one of the points we mentioned, feedback. Let us know feedback about these videos.
Yes, please.
And it was great talking to you, Julien. Thank you for your time. Talk to you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.